Welcome back, everybody, to the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Salim, and I got my other co-host, Coach Ralph. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, Salim, even though we are celebrating, if that's the right word, Jurgen Klopp leaving Anfield.
Yeah, it's almost like the events after the game were more important than the game.
Oh, very much.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, the game was a dead rubber from the perspective that Liverpool was going to finish third, whatever happened in the game. I'm sure that Klopp and the players wanted to end with a win, but at the end of the day, it was always going to be about the goodbyes.
Yeah. They did a good job. The setting up the stage, and the owners were there, and the fans didn't leave their seats after the final whistle went off. So I thought just the atmosphere around it. I got goosebumps at one point when they were just singing his name while he was up on the stage, and almost shed a tear.
Yep. Yeah, I think FSG they presented just a fantastic send-off for Jurgen Klopp, recognizing his time not just at Anfield, but all of the accomplishments of his tenure. And it was a great ceremony, if that's the right word. There were so many things about it that you can like as a Liverpool fan, and maybe some, not all neutrals, might be able to appreciate the way that all of his staff were given time to salute the crowd and get recognition, and culminating in Klopp, as it were, passing the baton to his successor.
Yeah, and he mentioned Arne Slot's name a couple times, and that he wants, because of the stadium and the way the team is designed and the fans, that he fully expects the team to push on and kick on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just the kind of person that Jurgen Klopp is, and clearly he loved his time at Liverpool, and he loves the football club and the fans and everything that goes along with it. And I guess now he said he's one of us, so I guess he is. He's a fan.
Yeah, I think he's always been one of us, the normal one, He just his characteristics of a human being, the absolute incredible leadership style that he has, and how all the players, maybe not every single one, but the majority of the players see him as a father figure, and it's very, very impressive what he's accomplished. I know there's some people out there saying, well, he didn't, he only won one Premier League. He won one out of the 3 Champions Leagues. And it's like, well, guys, we're playing Manchester City for the title every year. 97 points, didn't get it done once. Last year, a couple of years ago, it was down to the final day. Manchester City was down 2-0, and they come back and win 3-2 and take the title. It's a juggernaut over there. And the losses to, I believe, Real Madrid in the Champions League finals. I mean, Real Madrid's the boogeyman when it comes to the Champions League. There's just, it doesn't matter how their season's going, they're always going to be there towards the end, and they know how to win it. So overall, I'm through the moon about what he's accomplished, and the whole don't turn people from doubters to believers. I mean, he did it.
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, his as I said earlier, his tenure at Liverpool is it was just a fantastic ride, really, wasn't it? Because he came in at a time when I think FSG was probably getting through its teething problems, as it were, and I'm talking about the soccer side on the field rather than some of the other things that they've got embroiled in, because when they took over, obviously there was Roy Hodgson, who wasn't a popular appointment and had been made by the previous American owners. Wasn't a popular appointment. It wasn't going well in terms of results on the field, and the fan base. Probably he's the only manager that I can remember that really that the fans couldn't get behind to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had to make a change. They brought in Dalglish. Dalglish certainly steadied the ship. He got them on a good run. And then after his only full season back in charge, even though they got to 2 cup finals, FSG decided to make a change. One that I was against, I would have to say at the time. Mm-hmm. And they brought in Brendan Rodgers, who I think is a good coach, but I don't really feel... I think it was a bit of left field from one point of view. They wanted a young guy in who I think that the narrative was they wanted a young guy that was hungry. And so they saw that in Brendan Rodgers. And as I believe I've expressed before on the podcast, I was never a fan. I didn't think it was a good appointment. Mm-hmm. I know he had the one good season. But I think that FSG took their time to those first 3, 4, 5 years really to get a feel for English football and the particular demands that it takes to be the Liverpool manager, because it is one of the big or the iconic clubs in English football and in European and world football. I think there's no question about that. And they did their homework. They identified somebody, and that man was Jurgen Klopp. And he ended up, thankfully, at Anfield, and the rest now is all history, isn't it?
Yeah. It's super interesting how Borussia Dortmund and Liverpool are kind of similar from a fan base. They both sing the You'll Never Walk Alone songs. The stadiums are raucous. And I know that Jurgen Klopp, I think, once played at Anfield and was just amazed by the stadium and the fans and the atmosphere, mm-hmm. and how it was a no-brainer for him, even though I think we brought him in October, I believe.
It was something like that. Like that.
So he had a little bit of a break from Borussia, but then to Liverpool, but it wasn't much. It was maybe a couple months.
It was a few months. He was supposedly taking that sabbatical for a year. Mm-hmm. But I guess it was offered to him. Story goes that it was his wife that kind of said, "Forget about the sabbatical. This is the place for you. This is the place for you," and so it has proved.
Yeah. What do you think his next move is? Is he going to take a full year off, or are we going to see him in October somewhere?
Well, it's always possible. I mean, I'm sure that feelers will be sent out to him from one place and another. But I wouldn't be surprised this time if he really does take time out for a year or whatever. I'm not sure that he stated that he's going to take a year out this time. I know that he did with Dortmund, but I'm not sure if he's kind of given a timeline to be out. But I think that if you look at the last few years, he kind of, I guess you alluded to this, he kind of had a preview of what was to come when he was at Dortmund, where they have to deal with Bayern Munich. Mm-hmm. Liverpool have more resources than Borussia Dortmund, but they don't have the resources of Manchester City. And once Guardiola was on board, I mean, he really gave it an incredible go. And it doesn't win a trophy, but actually his win-loss record against Guardiola while he was at Liverpool, he just edges it. But critically, I guess the City fans and the neutral might point out that Guardiola still edged it overall in terms of trophies. But I think just to go up against the juggernaut, as you've labelled them, was incredible. And you've got Arsenal doing it now. I mean, Arsenal have yet to win a trophy. I know that they won one the first year that Arteta was there, but the FA Cup that year, that was the COVID year.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little bit different, and it was predominantly a team that he inherited. Now he's having to build a team in the same way that Jurgen Klopp had to build a team.
Yeah.
So I guess the acid test for Arsenal is can they get silverware? The acid test for Liverpool is can they replace Jurgen Klopp?
Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be difficult. It's always, even for any manager that would come in after what Klopp's meant to the club and to the city and to the fans, it's difficult. It's always difficult to replace a legendary, bigger than life type of person. Yeah.
I mean, because I was thinking about this. I think there's particular kind of charisma. So going back into the history of the game, you had somebody like a Matt Busby at Manchester United, the 50s and the 60s. And I believe his charisma was that around the players, that whenever he came into the dressing room, everybody would fall silent, and he was the man in charge. I wasn't around that time, as it were, well, certainly not in the 50s, to appreciate his particular kind of charisma. And then later on, you get the Brian Cloughs and people like that, like they all had their thing going for them. If you're looking at Jurgen Klopp, he's the one manager that Liverpool have had that mirrored the Bill Shankly thing, where Shankly was able to connect beyond the football field to the fan base, to the city. And Liverpool, I think, is a very unique place, often scorned by other parts of the country for one reason and another. Because I think that people from Liverpool and Merseyside tend to see themselves a little bit differently. They boo the national anthem. You go back to the 80s and all of the turmoil with Margaret Thatcher and her government.
Mm-hmm.
And so Merseyside and the Liverpool area tends to be a little bit detached. And similar to Shankly, Jurgen Klopp has kind of tapped into this resource. And I think across the game, somebody like a Guardiola no doubt has great charisma, but it's entirely different. I don't think that he kind of relates to the city in the same way that Jurgen Klopp does to the Liverpool area. And I'm talking about the city of Manchester now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about Manchester City. The only manager that I can think from another club that has a similar type of feel, there may be more, is Bielsa at Leeds. I mean, like, he had a similar kind of thing going with the city and the community and what have you, that kind of went beyond the football field. So even if you look at the waning days of his time, the team wasn't doing well, and left a very difficult situation for the next manager. But yet he was still beloved. And so I think even if Liverpool was bottom of the league, Jurgen Klopp would be beloved. It's that simple, that because that's who he is, that's what he means.
Also, I like just the honesty in the press conferences. I'm not saying he gives away everything, but there's a certain honesty about it. It's not like a BS press conference, kind of, when you hear coaches say, oh, well, we're on to the next game and, whatever. they just try to
Well,
they try to come up with something,
yeah,
and his is just, it's honest, it's straight to the point, and that's a certain charisma which builds trust,
yeah.
and that trust is, I mean, I think we trusted him. I would say, I don't know, after the first season, I was very pleased with the direction of the club. I was like, we're on a good track here. We got a good guy here.
Yeah, I mean, Jurgen Klopp has driven some flack because at times he will he will get a bee in his bonnet about certain things. So whether it's the early morning games on a Saturday, I think that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And having in my time coaching in this country where I had college games at 11 in the morning, I know exactly where he's coming from there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't want to play a game there, but we had to. So I kind of get that. And then sometimes people will laugh when he talks about, oh, it was too windy, or it was too this, the field was this, that, or the other. But again, from a coaching perspective, I understand what he's saying, because even though it's a much lower level, I've had some similar types of experiences, if you will. So he talks from that perspective, and then he wanted the 5 substitutes, so he'll always have his critics for things like that. But at the same time, I think the one thing that Jurgen Klopp does do very well is he sees the way that the game is changing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, people laughed at him, for example, when he got in the throwing coach, for example. I mean, even I was a bit amused by that, but there was a reason, and he's willing to experiment a little bit and try something new, especially if he feels it'll give an extra edge here and there when he is competing with a club like Manchester City. And I just think that he's a very open-minded, innovative. What are the words? He doesn't take all the credit for himself. I think he surrounds himself with a staff where people have particular strengths, and he delegates. So he has a lot of things going for him, and you mentioned leadership. I mean, like, that is leadership essentially. It's leadership as to how he runs his club program, leadership as to how he coaches his team and manages his team. It's leadership to the fan base, which he tuned into, as I said earlier, very, very quickly in the time he was at Anfield.
The game was pretty straightforward. The game was kind of back and forth, and then the red card happened, and then Maka scores on a header delivered by Elliott, and then Kwanzaa off a corner. I mean, and that was it. I mean, the second half, even though we had a lot of attempts on goal, Lucho had one off the bar, Salah had one that Sa made a very good save, but the stadium just did not stop. I think from about 83rd minute on, like, they were all standing up, they were all singing, they were all clapping. I mean, it was truly an event. To be live at that event would have been incredible.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, it's very emotional, really. It's very emotional, and I think football fans on Merseyside, and I include Everton in that. The way that they get behind their team is just something to behold. Going back in my time following the team, I mean, I can remember as a kid, I mean, just being blown away by the sheer passion of some of the games, some of the big games in particular. And it's just something that stays with you forever. You don't lose that.
a couple other players were also sent off after the game, and Thiago and Matip. And Matip, I think, was a fantastic signing. He had a big contribution to the success of the team. And Thiago was a guy that I thought when we signed, I thought this is a different type of player. He's technically very gifted. It's a shame he got hurt so much because I think he could unlock defenses with his vision and passing, similar to what McAllister can do, but Thiago could do it, I think, when teams were really kind of, parking the bus. I thought that's where he could literally present another option, and it's a shame he got hurt so much because I'm a huge fan of his as a player.
Well, Thiago had his moments at Liverpool, but I think it was a failed gamble, as it were, because he was already injury prone. Mm-hmm. But I think he was cheap in terms of the transfer price for a player of his caliber, and I think it's evident that Klopp. I mean, Klopp was known for a certain style of football, and everyone termed heavy metal and all this kind of stuff. But if you actually look at the way that his teams played over time, he modified a lot. Mm-hmm. He modified his game. It was still essentially the same style, but I think they became a little more possession orientated at times. I think that they learned to manage the game better, although ironically is perhaps where they struggled this season a little bit, perhaps. And that might be a byproduct of all the changes that they had to make. But Klopp certainly modified a lot of the things that he brought to Liverpool, and I think the pacing over the season, I think that's something that he worked on. And I'm convinced that one of the reasons why he wanted the 5 subs was also for some selfish reasons, which were the way that he wanted to run his team tactically during the game, because they play with intensity.
Yeah, and the 5 substitutions, there was a pattern there for, I don't know, a good 3-4 months where if we were down, which happened a lot, but we were just always would give up the first goal, and then 3 subs would come on in the 65th minute or so and mm-hmm. really change the game, and then you could bring on another 1 or 2 guys in the 80th, 85th minute. And yeah, you're right. He maybe it was selfish, but it makes sense. These guys play so much. It's, players that play for Liverpool and Manchester City and, clubs like that, they're internationals too, and they're starters. So you take the international football with the 60-odd games, 60-ish games that they play if they, get to a couple cup finals. It is a lot to ask. And the fact that whether, it's something that he said, it was a selfish reason, or, hey guys, like these guys play a lot. We need to have more than 3 subs. And I think it makes total sense that the game is moving in that direction. I've heard some other stuff about like having temporary subs, something like that. And it's just like going to get too convoluted. At 5 subs is good. The game is played very well. You have more than 3 options to change a game whenever you want. And that's for everybody. That's not just, it's not Liverpool that just gets 5 subs. I mean, everybody does. And he used them very, very well. And teams like Liverpool and Manchester City have almost 2 full teams. I would say Manchester City more than Liverpool. But so I'm okay with that, the 5 subs thing for sure. One other thing I wanted to kind of bring up was Pep Linders. I don't know if you heard this statement, but they were saying that Pep Linders' value to Klopp was that he wasn't a yes man. He challenged him constantly about some ideas that maybe protected Klopp from himself. And him going to manage FC Salzburg and starting his managerial career, I'm excited to see. I'm going to keep my eye on him because I could definitely see him coming back to Liverpool at some point once he has some seasons under his belt and can kind of get his management style experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think in the old days, well, it did happen. It did happen at Liverpool. Was they would just promote from within. So Shankly left, Paisley was promoted. Paisley left, Fagan was promoted, and so they had this continuity thing, and that's one thing that I wondered at one point whether it would be logical to move Pep Linders into the hot seat, as it were, but. I just don't think that that's the modern game anymore. Now it's all about reputation and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, for Pep Linders to come back, he would have to go. He would have to prove himself somewhere else. Uh, he's gone to Salzburg, which isn't a big fish, but if he does well there, maybe he moves up the ladder to say a good team. You know, could even be in England, I suppose, but in Germany or France or Spain. And if he does well there, then who knows? Yeah, he could well end up coming back to Liverpool.
I think the leadership of FSG asked Pep or kind of felt him out about it, and his loyalty to Klopp was that he just wouldn't do it. And the fact that Klopp has built that kind of loyalty around him and confidants that he can fully trust, and the fact that they said, this is Klopp's era, not, and we're out with him. So in a sense, it makes sense. But also, like you said, the continuity that used to be in the game, it's just not the same. You need top tier managers who are proven. I'm not saying Arne Slot's top tier or proven, but what he did at Feyenoord is impressive. And I think you have to keep an eye on coaches that when you see teams pop out of nowhere, everybody has the same resources. And the resource that, well, generally speaking, I know that the bigger teams have more resources, but generally speaking, you have players and you have a coach that can manage them and tactically and strategically can impact the game. And when you see teams pop out of nowhere, generally speaking, it's not that they have a Mo Salah in his heyday or something like that. They just have a coach that really, really is in tune with them and can really impact the game and instill the style that they want to play. I mean, there's several coaches. For an example, you got Xabi Alonso, right? I mean, the players there are good. Wirtz is probably their star, but what he's done, 50 games unbeaten. I mean, God, that's a big achievement. Arne Slot winning titles in the Eredivisie because it's usually Ajax or PSV. That's a big deal. So we'll see what happens. I hope that this guy can bring something. He's not going to be Klopp. I think we all have to understand that, and just kind of see what happens.
Right. I think you're spot on there, but as we mentioned a bit earlier, I think the current, well, he's not the current manager now. The last manager, Jurgen Klopp, has paved the way for Arne Slot, and I think that was just a tremendous thing to do, and it kind of, there's always going to be, as you said, there's always going to be this feeling about, okay, the guy's a legend, who's going to replace him, and essentially the legend has paved the way for the next guy. So it's up to Arne Slot now to come in, stamp his authority on the players, on the club, and the fans. Won't be in the same way as Jurgen Klopp, but he's a one-off in the same way that historically Bill Shankly was a one-off.
Well, the coming months are pretty exciting. There's a lot of tournaments going on. There's Copa America, there's the Euros. So we'll definitely keep tabs on our players. And also, I love the transfer rumors of the summer. I mean, it is all over the place. Some of the things that some people that claim Liverpool are tied to like some players that are extremely expensive is comical to me. Last week we talked about Darwin Nunez to Barcelona, and it's like they don't have money. Like, what? Where is this coming from? So, I'm really looking forward to the next couple months. We got great football with the Euros and Copa America, like I said, and the transfer mill and the transfer rumor mill will be burning at 100%.
Oh gosh, the rumours are flying, and look, Liverpool clearly has money to spend because they were going to buy, or they tried to buy Caicedo for 100 million. So they've got money. So I guess it comes down to the issue: are they going to spend it wisely or not? And my gut feeling, looking at Arne Slot, is he has a reputation for maybe improving the mid-range player, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe you get 3 or 4 players within that. I don't know, 30 to 40 million, which actually is a lot of money, but like that is the going rate. The top players aren't 30 to 40 million; they're considerably more. So, but I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool look for 3 or 4 players in that price range. Maybe there's a couple of outgoings. Who knows? Will they try to make a statement signing? I don't know. That might be for his second year. We'll have to see. We'll have to see about that.
I think, the players going out. I think obviously Thiago and Matip, but they didn't have any impact on this season. I think realistically, I think Salah, as much as he's been incredible, I think it's maybe time also, personally.
Yeah. You've got the Salah issue. I mean, reportedly they want to keep him, and they're about to start negotiations. So that will be interesting to see how that progresses. So looking at Mo Salah from the outside, I just get a sense, and I could be wrong on this. I mean, if he went to Saudi Arabia, he's going to go to Saudi Arabia for the money. At his time of his career, but I kind of get a sense, and it's to do with his ego, is he would only want to leave Liverpool for a comparable club, or one that he sees maybe as a step up or whatever. So in his mind, like Real Madrid would be a step up, maybe. I don't know, but they don't have them. Well, I think they have their interest elsewhere. Barcelona doesn't have the money. Bayern Munich, I don't know. Mane, I suppose, was a failed experiment by then. Would Salah be any better? So I don't really think there's many places. PSG, although like PSG, like they're losing Mbappe, so they might view Salah as a name replacement for Mbappe. My belief and my understanding is that PSG is gradually hoping to downscale, like the Galactico type of player, but they might want 1 or 2 still. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't think there's many places. If ego's part of it for Salah, like he wants to play at a top club, I don't think there's many options for him, really.
Yeah. Also, the noise that we're hearing that they're trying to re-sign him or work an extension. that could be also trying to force people to buck up more money for him, more specifically Saudi Arabia. The PSG shout is a really good one. I didn't even think about that. I don't see how Real Madrid would even be interested, considering Mbappe's going there, and they.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like they're not going to be interested in Mo Salah. Yeah, I think from the Liverpool perspective, it is going to be this: either he signs a new contract or they will sell him. And I think it's that simple, basically.
Yeah, it could be that simple. Is there anybody else that you see on the team that, whether he gets sold or not or moved on, is there anybody that you would like to see kind of moved on?
Not that I can think of. I mean, I wondered last season whether Matip was past his best, past his sell-by date. Although he had a decent start to the season, but his contract's not been renewed. Thiago, that was a logical decision because of all his injuries. I think the players that are likely to move on, I think there's a lot of peripheral type players like Adrian, Tsimikas. They might look to cash in on somebody like a Kelleher, for example, because he had a good run in the team there and did extremely well. So they might be able to get some decent money for him. That'll be interesting to see whether they do that. Are they trying to do the Manchester City thing where their academy? I'm not sure that their academy's really set up to produce players for Manchester City. I think it's set up to make money by selling them to other clubs. So I don't know. I don't think Jurgen Klopp would, in his heart, would want that. But they seem to have a number of good young players, Liverpool now, and they've been blooded. I mean, because even a player like Ben Doak, who's been injured for the lion's share of the season, I mean, he's a real talent. And so they can't all make it at Anfield. So do they play them enough that it kind of gets people interested and then they sell them for big bucks? I don't know. I mean, like, that could be one path that Liverpool follows, I guess.
Yeah, Harry Wilson at Fulham, I think, is an example of that. He was.
Oh gosh, there's several players floating around that were at Anfield when they were young, and yeah, Wilson is one, and there's several others. I mean, technically speaking, Raheem Sterling, is kind of the most money that they've got from an academy prospect. So Liverpool have had their share of that, but they haven't gone to the level that Manchester City has, where they are really raising major funds from selling academy players.
Yeah. Well, Coach, it was an incredible season. It was an emotional ending, and so much to talk about. I think from a recap standpoint, which we talked about probably doing next week, and just kind of going over the season, talking about a couple games and going from there. Just because the season's over, folks, we're not done with our content. Coach and I are spitballing some ideas about how to keep this fun and the content interesting, and we have some really great podcasts down the road for you guys. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for an incredible season, Jurgen Klopp. We love you, and we wish you all the best.
Yep. Jurgen is gone, but Liverpool Football Club goes on. So yeah, looking forward to future podcasts, Sully.
All right, Coach. Thanks again, and take care, everybody.
Bye now.